Yeah, not going to lie to you, it was very hard to make these rankings. I'm assuming submitting starting lineups this week will be a very difficult task. So please, if you disagree with anything, don't bite your tongue. Let me hear it in the comment section. You know that I value your opinion. I think nobody's going to disagree with tier 1. We have CMC here. Christian McCaffrey saw his 2019 level workload week 1 against the Pittsburgh Steelers. You just took 2019 league-winning Christian McCaffrey, plopped him onto a top 5 team in the NFL instead of the Carolina Panthers. I don't have a lot of Christian McCaffrey this year. The reason being is I was drafting Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, and Tyreek Hill over CMC. I think this was a mistake. I think that CMC arguably should have been pick 1, should have been pick 2 at the very latest. I wish I could go through and trade Tyreek for him everywhere that I have him. And real quick, if you have Tyreek Hill and made that mistake like I did, you probably want Christian McCaffrey going forward. As he looks like he is in a tier by himself at running back. Now, going over to tier 2, I understand you're going to disagree. Saquon Barkley is the number 2 running back in fantasy this week. Hear me out. Right now, if you look at the implied team total, Vegas sportsbooks have the New York Giants almost at 23 points this week, one of the highest scoring offenses in the NFL. It's a beautiful matchup against the Arizona Cardinals. You're going up against, arguably the worst defense in the NFL in comparison to the best defense in the NFL a week ago. And with that being said, if you go look at his underdog pick'em right now, Saquon Barkley's at 75.5 rushing yards against Arizona. We know he's a running back that's involved as a pass catcher as well. I want to reiterate, do not panic with Barkley. If you can possibly buy him low, you definitely go out there and try to make that move. Then at 3, we will have Nick Chubb. With Chubb, it was a little bit concerning to see the fact Jerome Ford did get the Kareem Hunt usage. So, the bull case in Nick Chubb going out there and all of a sudden seeing 60 receptions this season looks like it's not going to happen. Now, Derrick Henry at 4. Obviously, Henry looks great, but the fundamental issue is, Ryan Tannehill looks like he's arguably one of the worst starting quarterbacks in the NFL. Now, the Saints had a good defense. You're going up against the Chargers here. Obviously, Miami just put up a ton of points against LA. The implied team total that you have right now for Derrick Henry against the Chargers will be 21 points for this Titans offense. Then Tony Pollard at 5. I think most weeks in a full PPR format will actually have Pollard ahead of Derrick Henry. The reason being and why he's so low here is just simply it's a very tough matchup going up against the Jets. We saw this Jets defense look like a top 3 defense in the NFL this past week against the Buffalo Bills. Now, all of a sudden, you have the Dallas Cowboys going and the Jets look significantly worse. So maybe it's a little bit of a different game environment. We'll talk about Breece Hall and Dalvin Cook later on. Now at 6, we will still have Bijan Robinson. With Bijan, not a beautiful matchup going up against the Packers. They actually have the lowest implied team total of any team in this range, only at 20, but still this will be the running back seeing the usage as a pass catcher out of this backfield. Now we will talk about the Tyler Algier role later on when we get to him. Now 7, we will go Austin Eckler. With Eckler, I don't know how we want to rank this guy. Obviously, we're making this very early in the week. If Eckler were to play, obviously we play him. If Eckler was 100%, obviously he's way higher in these rankings. The fundamental thing is we don't know the health of the ankle just yet. It will be something we have to continue to monitor. So I'm going to artificially move Austin Eckler lower in these rankings. That way we can just make sure that we have to go through and revisit this later in the week. Now, our next tier will be Travis Etienne. With Etienne, should be a very high scoring game against the Kansas City Chiefs. You have an applied team total of 24 points right now for the Jacksonville Jaguars. You can make the argument, well, Mason, come on, the Jags are just going to have to go out there. They're just going to have to throw the ball over and over and over again, which honestly could very easily be the case. Maybe this is going to be a Ridley game. Maybe this is going to be a Lawrence game. But Etienne saw the role as a pass catcher this past week. That's what I love to see. I want to go out there and I want to get someone that is going to be running routes, particularly in an elite level offense, and will be drawing targets out of the backfield. And if you look at Las Vegas sportsbooks, this should be the highest scoring game of the week. Y'all know last week we said start everybody in Miami and Los Angeles. This week we're going to be starting everybody in Jacksonville and Kansas City. Now, 9, we will have Josh Jacobs. With Jacobs, yes, Breece Hall looked great against this Buffalo Bills defense. Hard to say that's going to be the case whenever you are looking at the Raiders. They have an applied team total of 19. They're like almost 10-point dogs in this game. It's going to be a very tough spot for the overall Las Vegas Raiders offense to be able to move the ball effectively down the field against Buffalo. Now, Mixon will be our next running back at 10. I want to reiterate, Joe Mixon is a buy low candidate. Joe Mixon is someone that we should be trying to go out and grab everywhere we can. The implied team total for the Cincinnati Bengals, 25.25. They have the Cincinnati Bengals as a top 5 scoring offense in the NFL this week. I fundamentally don't believe Joe Burrow is a bad quarterback. I think that he will be a great quarterback, and you should go ahead and you should try to get Joe Mixon on the cheap if we still can. Now, Aaron Jones will be our next guy. Jones, we're going to have to continue to monitor the injury. Now, if he were to play, it's going to be a great matchup going up against the Atlanta Falcons. Clearly, we saw him look dynamic as a pass catcher this past week. I mean, the reason we weren't drafting Aaron Jones coming into the season is obviously the age, the concerns that you have with injuries. So it's always a little worrisome to see Aaron Jones going down. Now, Kenneth Walker will be our next guy at 12. With Walker, they have an implied team total of 21 points this next week against the Detroit Lions. They're big dogs in this game as well. The Lions are favored by almost a touchdown. I mean, the Seattle Seahawks, particularly Geno Smith, looked pretty damn bad this past week. I really hope that Geno's able to turn it around. I'm really hoping that Geno's able to be a little bit better than he was, because fundamentally at the end of the day, if Geno Smith is just a complete dud and he was a flash in the pan in 2022, we may have a ton of players in this offense, I mean, just being complete bust in fantasy. Of course, we're not saying that's going to happen just after 1 week. We're just going to be on the lookout to see what does happen. Now, Alexander Mattison will be our next guy going up against the Eagles on Thursday night. You don't love the spot. Right now, about his total yardage mark for Underdog Pick'ems is at 76.5 total yards. Mattison saw every single snap out of this backfield. Mattison looks like it's going to be a 3-down RB. Now, the issue is not a good matchup going up against Philadelphia. They are pretty much touchdown dogs in this game on Thursday night. Now, I will say what's the most appealing thing in this game on Thursday night is actually the special pick'em that they have on Underdog Fantasy. They have Jalen Hurts for more than less than half a passing yard for new members of Underdog. So, of course, if you want to take advantage of that, you can find the link in the live chat. You can find the link in the description, comment section. Promo code FLOCK, you're going to get a 100% deposit match up to $100. Get our 2023 fantasy football rankings, a free trial to flockfantasy.com, and Jalen Hurts more than less than half a passing yard, ladies and gentlemen. I actually don't mind going through and looking at the Dallas Goedert for more than 42.5 receiving yards as well, even if I'm very biased and even if I'm just really hoping that he's not a complete dud when we have him in so many teams. Now, our next here will be Ramondre Stevenson, 14. I mean, Ramondre did split the backfield with Zeke. I mean, Zeke had the critical drop / I don't know what you want to call it, fumble week 1. I mean, it doesn't really look to be a great spot. What's interesting is this Miami Dolphins defense gave up so much rushing production to the Los Angeles Chargers last week. We need to fundamentally ask ourselves, is that a fluke? Does Miami have a horrible rush defense? Is Los Angeles elite with their 2 RB system? So, I mean, there are a couple different things we'll be looking at. I do think you need to start Ramondre, particularly in a full PPR format. Now, y'all know Rachaad White was not even in our top 30 running back rankings a week ago. We were saying to sell Rachaad White. I mean, get rid of him. This is a running back that's going to be in a very bad offense. He's not a great first and second down back. I mean, hell, we won money last week on Underdog for going fewer than 50.5 rushing yards for Rachaad White. But with that being said, he has a great matchup going up against the Chicago Bears. And fundamentally, I think White is more appealing now than he used to be. Even if he had a bad week 1, he did still see every single snap, every single touch out of this backfield. So even if Rachaad White was a sell-high guy for us going into the season, even after a very bad week 1, I'm actually a little more excited about him. Now, David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs will be our next 2 RBs. Now, I do think Gibbs continues to expand his overall role in this offense, and I want to be very clear on that. I think Gibbs is extremely appealing in full PPR formats. David Montgomery is extremely appealing in non-PPR leagues. I think Montgomery is going to be the running back in the red zone that has the overall touchdown upside. I believe Gibbs will be the running back in the receiving role, and Gibbs is the more dynamic back between the two regardless. We'll talk about these running backs a little bit more later on in the week. David Montgomery may or may not be on our Sell IRB video, so make sure you're subscribed to the channel if you're not already. Now, our next running back, a big-time loser last week, Dameon Pierce. I thought Pierce was going to see every single touch, ladies and gentlemen. I thought it would happen, and I was flat out wrong, and I owe you an apology. It looks like this is a 3-man running back by committee for the Houston Texans. Right now, their implied team total is about 19 points this week. They are supposed to be one of the worst offenses in the NFL. So even if we like the talent profile of Dameon Pierce, even if I thought he was going to see pretty much every single time, we are wrong. We are wrong. Looks to be a 3-man running back by committee. We can still start him and hope that things change. But I mean, at the end of the day, it's not a even split with Devin Singletary. Now, our next RB will be Jamal Williams. I owe you an apology here as well. We called Jamal Williams a must-start running back last week. We will be going back to the well, assuming that Condre Miller misses, because if you have no Miller, then at the end of the day, Jamal's still going to maintain that role as an every down running back for the New Orleans Saints. It's a good matchup against Carolina, where obviously the combination of Tyler Algier as well as Bijan Robinson just put up 1 million points this week. So it is a very interesting spot, just pretty much trying to figure out, okay, does Miller play? And if he doesn't, how pumped are we about Jamal overall? Now, James Conner will be our next RB at 20. Conner, similar situation. Very bad offense, every single touch. Conner will be ahead of Jamal if Miller plays. He'll be behind Jamal if Miller doesn't. Now, going over to our next tier, we're going to be going with Raheem Mostert. You kind of notice all these running backs are about the same, right? He's a running back that I don't think is that talented, but he is going to get every touch out of this backfield. Will be very interesting to see the availability and very interesting to see the role if Devon Achane does play this next week. Obviously, Devon Achane being the scratch last week does give you a little bit more confidence that they are just going to lean on Mostert. This is a team that has an implied team total at 24.25. Really, the only teams ahead of this are going to be the Kansas City Chiefs, the Philadelphia Eagles, and the Cincinnati Bengals. So right now, I mean, you should have the Miami Dolphins with Tua as one of the highest scoring games of the week. And I will say, quick side note as well, Underdog just dropped the $100,000 Sunday giveaway. And if you include Tua in your pick'em slip for this Sunday, you'll be entered to win $100,000 on Underdog. Make sure you're all taking advantage of that giveaway. Now, our next player will be Miles Sanders. I was wrong with Sanders as well. I thought this was a running back that was going to see a 3-down workload. And no, he's split. Chuba Hubbard had a role. Chuba Hubbard had like 35-40% of the snaps in this backfield. Chuba Hubbard also got to work on 3rd down. Very, scary. Also scary the fact that they're going up against the New Orleans Saints. And the Saints just turned the ball over 3 times from Ryan Tannehill this past week. So, the overall offense in Carolina should be horrendous. Now, Brian Robinson as our next guy. I am surprised to see how low the projections are with the Washington Commanders this next week. Vegas sportsbooks have them scoring fewer than 18 points. They have them as a bottom 3 offense overall. It is a tough matchup going up against Denver. Now, Najee will be our next running back at 24. Until further notice, I don't know if you can start Najee Harris. Not just that he looked very bad last week. The Pittsburgh Steelers looked very bad last week. That's kind of expectation, right? If you're going up against the Philadelphia Eagles. There's nothing new there. That's part of the course. However, what is different is you ended up getting a pretty serious role for Jaylen Warren. While, Najee Harris was the quote-unquote starting running back, you still, at the end of the day, had Jaylen Warren going through and seeing about 50% of this backfield, particularly on early downs. Once the game got out of hand, at that point, all of a sudden, Najee Harris was a little bit more involved. Especially on 3rd down and 2-minute drill. Going up against Cleveland, it's not a good matchup. We just saw what Cleveland did to Cincinnati. Now, our next running back with Tyler Algier, this is a spot that it is hard to fade, right? Algier looked so good last week, but still, ultimately, Bijan Robinson is there. Bijan Robinson is seeing every single target out of this backfield. Tyler Algier still is the secondary running back. I expect Bijan to continue to expand his role as, he's a rookie. So I think Algier is definitely startable. Save you missed out on someone like J.K. Dobbins. But I don't think he's a must-start guy. I think he's that low-end RB2, high-end RB3, depending on matchup. Now, our next 2 running backs, I know we are ranking them extremely low, and I love the talent of Breece Hall, but come on. Right now, Vegas sportsbooks are telling us that the New York Jets will be the worst offense in the NFL this week. We can blame this on Zach Wilson. We can blame this on the Dallas Cowboys defense, but they have an implied team total at 16 points against this Dallas Cowboys defense. Breece Hall looked great. He proved already what we knew last year, that this man has an elite level talent profile. Breece Hall is an elite level talent at the game of football. But with that being said, Dalvin Cook saw more carries. Dalvin Cook saw more targets. Dalvin Cook saw more receptions. So fundamentally, if we are looking at this and we are trying to be as objective as we can about it, as it stands today, for this week, most likely, Breece Hall will be the secondary running back in the worst offense in the NFL. I love the guy. I am rooting for him so much. But I do want to be very realistic with this. Now, dropping down to our next tier, we will go Isaiah Pacheco at 28. We'll be interested to see what the official role is for Clyde Edwards-Helaire, because at the end of the day, if we are going to be looking at Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Jerick McKinnon, and Isaiah Pacheco all in this offense, even if it's an offense that's going to score a lot of points, we know they're going to throw the ball consistently. If they split the backfield 3 ways, it may not be a rushing offense overall that has enough production to go around for everybody. I mean, if it was just between 2 guys, that's great. But if Clyde Edwards-Helaire is going to come in here and take a little bit from McKinnon and Pacheco, I don't know if we want to start any of these players. Now, Gainwell will be our next running back at 29. Gainwell looks like he's the starter in Philadelphia. Now, of course, with this being said, I mean, we don't know if you will have Rashad Penny as a scratch again this week. We don't know the health of Kenneth Gainwell. But if we get Gainwell playing and then he comes out against Minnesota on Thursday night and all of a sudden he is yet again the starter, then he's going to slowly creep up these rankings. And in week 3, he'll probably be a top 24 guy. Now, Javonte Williams will be our next guy at 30 with Samaje Perine at 31. Like I've said, Javonte has a lot of upside in the long term. In the long term, Javonte is 100% someone that I want to be going out there and seeing what the price point is, seeing if we can go out there and get him. While in the short term, this should be one of the lowest scoring games of the week. Right now, the over-under is only at 39 points. I'm going to be exact. This actually is the lowest scoring game of the week, according to Las Vegas Sportsbooks. And Javonte and Samaje Perine are splitting said backfield. So hopefully Javonte ends up taking 60, 70% of this backfield in a few weeks. Hopefully we have Jerry Jeudy coming out as well and elevating the overall offense. But for now, probably players that we want to go ahead and look to avoid. But I think that's all I have for you. Again, if you have not done so already, drop me a like on this video, subscribe to the channel if you play fantasy football. And of course, make sure you go take advantage of the Jalen Hurts special pick'em, more than less than half a passing yard against the Minnesota Vikings on Thursday night. Plus the Sunday special they just dropped include Tua going up against the New England Patriots and be entered to win that $100,000. Of course, use promo code FLOCK if you want those specials. Plus promo code FLOCK, you can get an additional 100% of positive match, our 2023 fantasy football rankings, and a free trial to flockfantasy.com. But thank you again, ladies and gentlemen. I really do appreciate you. I really hope you have a great day, and I really hope I get to see you out with the live stream later tonight.